They were doubled up by Cleveland 8-4 last night. ESPN's Buster Olney says that there's currently a lot of frustration over high asking prices around baseball due to lack of available players, but the posturing will end today with the deadline approaching. From the Corewell Health Sports Desk, I'm Chris Villar. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket and Odyssey.com.
We get to the phones. People want to talk Lions today. We brought up Aleem McNeil. He's next, according to Brad Holmes. Where's this money coming from? We kind of dispelled some of those fears, but we're talking through Decker's extension, McNeil's extension, building through the trenches. Let's get to the phones where we have Rich in Troy. You're on 97.1.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I kind of have a one-off question about the fullback position because I'm a long-school football player, and I like the fullback position. Are they going to play Rodrigo at fullback a lot more this year? And if they do, are they going to throw the ball, to the fullback a lot, kind of like San Francisco does?
I think they could play him at fullback some. We saw it a little bit last year. Rodrigo's a guy that they could get a little creative with, and he's I don't want to call him sneaky athletic. I think he can make something happen with the ball in his hands. Now, let's slow down. I don't think it's going to be San Francisco Kyle Juszczyk type of thing.
No.
But they do have, it was Kabinda, he's no longer here. Do they have a need for a fullback in some short yardage packages? John, what do you think?
I don't necessarily see that need because they've got Montgomery. They've got, obviously, Gibbs, who can be, he showed last year he could be a power back. But Sione Vaki, I'm looking at him going, how could they possibly use him in this offense in some situations like that? You mentioned Rodrigo. We saw him catch the ball out of the backfield last year. I think there's some options that they have, and I don't necessarily think they have to go out and add anybody.
I don't think it's like at a full-time capacity. He's still going to be a linebacker and a special teamer. My point is if you are lining up in goal line and you want a little extra oomph out there, or short yardage, 4th and 1 at middle of the field.
That's what you're paying David Montgomery for.
You're saying run the ball, but occasionally you do play action pass, right?
Oh, sure,
yeah.
And there's plenty of options to have off of it. You could have Montgomery and Gibbs in the backfield at the same time. Now all of a sudden it's a mismatch on any linebacker that's going to be covering Gibbs out of the backfield.
Or you run double tight ends. You could go Mitchell.
Yeah, Laporta. Okay. We haven't talked much about Sam Laporta. I think his impact this year, he's going to grow as a player. There's going to be things that he looked at last year of, I didn't run this route quite right, or against this defense, I should have felt this or noticed this. There's going to be things that he, as an individual, just grows into as he continues to get more experience. And I think that's one of the situations where he's going to be a huge weapon.
Where he could be a tight end, but also an H-back, and you can move him around, and he could be in the backfield a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, as an H-back, not that I'm turning around and handing the ball, but
right.
Could he be somebody that you get creative with formations-wise? We know Ben Johnson, very creative with his play calls, the familiarity, keeping all the continuity together. Yeah, I think Laporta should be used really creatively this season.
Yeah, or
he can handle it, put more on his plate.
Make sure you go to the right official, you report. You could see Penei Sewell in a position like that, because they've already thrown him the ball once, and you're not going to hand him the ball. I would not be one that would be a proponent of that, but use one of those guys as a lead blocker, as a distraction back there. You have all these moving parts, and a defense has to identify, okay, is it an unbalanced line? That's the easiest one. It's the most common one. But then you look and say, well, okay, what if they line up, Skipper in the backfield? What if they line up Sewell in the backfield? Like, there's different things that you've got to be able to communicate in the moment, or you got to spend the time out.
And you can get funny. You said unbalanced line, tackle over stuff. We've seen Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell can catch a pass. We've seen him do it.
And it's just a matter of how creative can Ben Johnson be with the weapons, with the athletes that they have on this team and on the offensive line.
Those heavy sets, those packages where they get out a little extra beef.
Are you calling us heavy set?
Yeah, I am.
That's what I heard.
248-539-9797. All right. What do we got here? Ticket Tech says Gibbs is not a power back. Just because you run through the tackles doesn't make you a power back. Don't say stuff without thoughts, Stoney. Duh. He's not Derrick Henry.
Okay, I'm not saying he's Derrick Henry, but I'm saying he proved that he can run between the tackles. He can be a guy that can lower his shoulder and pick up yards. But again, that's not the situation they're going to hand the ball off to him at. It's going to be David Montgomery in that situation.
Period. I do think Gibbs got typecast a little bit as a scat back coming out of Alabama. And it's like, did you guys not – I know you watched the highlights. Did you realize 70% of his touches were runs? I mean, he is a guy who can get – when he gets to the second level too, he's dangerous. And with this offensive line, you get to the second level. No, well, I wouldn't characterize him, and you weren't either, as a power back. But he's going to get enough touches. Some of them will be short yardage, and he will lower a shoulder.
Yeah, and here's the thing is, okay, you line up as a defense. You see Gibbs in the backfield. You're thinking – all right, it's going to be something on the edge. Doesn't mean you can't hand it to them between the tackles. You catch a defense offside. Maybe they're trying to overplay something to the outside. That's part of that equation. The Lions are somewhat feeding into that right now with that he is a scat back, that he is a guy that you want to throw the ball to, because there have been periods out here at practice where he's not at all with the running backs. He is working with the wide receivers.
He can get away with it. The Camaro role, maybe.
Well, yeah, and so, but it feeds into that, he's not a power back. He's not built like a power back. He can run between the tackles. He can gain yards down there, but they're going to use him in so many different ways to make it so that if you do hand the ball off to Montgomery, maybe instead of 8 guys in the box, you only have 7 in the box because you've got one guy that's trying to figure out what the heck Gibbs is doing, or Laporta, or Amon-Ra St. Brown. The list goes on and on.
Some ticket text coming in, some on the baseball stuff, right? We want to get into that a little bit this hour. It is deadline day. Scott Harris has a big deadline ahead of him, right? I don't think there's a lot of trust in him when it comes to high-level decisions. Last year, the Eduardo thing, and I know the no trade clause is something that he didn't give out, but he navigated poorly. They had one team they were going to do a trade with. The deal fell apart because Eduardo exercised his contractual right. Never going to fault a player for using things they fought for and negotiated for in their contract. I know people wanted to villainize Eduardo. You want to villainize someone, it's your president of baseball operations who didn't have a second deal, didn't work the market sufficiently, got nothing for Eduardo Rodriguez. He has Jack Flaherty, who he has scratched, is shopping. There is no issue with the no-trade clause here, and there's no shortage of teams interested. We've already seen some prices that look interesting. Go deliver. Redeem yourself. Give us good things to say about you. And I think there's a dread. I feel it. Do fans feel it, this idea that, oh, no, he's going to screw this up. We're going to get 70 cents on the dollar for Flaherty. I think there's a fear that he screws this up today.
There's always going to be that fear because of the track record. And it's not a long track record, but all we have to go off is what he has done in Detroit since he's been here. And for Jack Flaherty, are they just simply waiting for that desperate team because the market has been set with some of the pitchers that have been traded, and you look at the Astros deal and you're like, wow, you got that
and
return?
People are celebrating what the Blue Jays got back for a rental.
Right, and so, okay, that's the return for that level of pitcher. Flaherty is above that, so you should get more, and he is somewhat letting people set the market. That's fine, but you got to make sure that you have something that you can go to if you are set on selling Flaherty.
So the deal, just so we understand what's the market today. Kikuchi is the Blue Jays lefty. He's a rental. He's got an ERA of almost 5. Right. He's a number 4, or call it what it is, a number 5. Yep. He is the back end of a rotation. Flaherty's a front end of the rotation guy. ERA under 3, high strikeouts, low base runner totals. Exactly. Yep. So the deal that everybody's pointing to, Kikuchi nets 3 players, all of which are at or near the major league level. It's a pitcher who was getting set to throw for the Astros that day. Yep. It's a position player who's already there right now, and then a minor league infielder in Will Wagner, whose ETA is 2024. Those are 3 guys. None of them are top 100 prospects. But it's 3 bodies at or near the major league level. 2 of them are hitters. If I told you, hey, you're not getting a top 100 prospect for Flaherty, but you're getting 2 hitters close to the major league level for a guy who's going to walk, you take it. And I expect more than what that deal was. I'm holding Scott Harris to getting 1.25, 1.5 more than what that deal was, and that's a deal that felt aggressive. So capitalize on the market.
Yeah, and I think there's more teams that you can market to for Jack Flaherty. For Tarek Skubal, and we'll talk about him when we come back from the break just a little bit more, I think the only team that you could go to or that would be interested that could pay a ransom would be the Baltimore Orioles. For Jack Flaherty, you're looking around and going, we have many more teams that we could deal with because he's not going to have the pull or the draw or the sell as a Skubal, obviously.
You're not gutting a farm system the way that Skubal would, and the only farm system that you really want to gut is Baltimore, which creates this game of chicken and a standoff. We can play a little bit of Morosi, who was on the afternoon show, update people on that. Texter says, I love the show. What I expect from Harris today, I'm nervous. I've not seen Harris show he can win at the deadline. Flaherty and Skubal moves are critical moves. Say what you want about Eduardo. He miscalculated it. He would have to earn back fans' confidence with a better showing today. Until he does it, I don't have confidence in him the way I do Brad Holmes. Good comparison, Jeff and Fenton. It's 97-1. We talk about this time of year, the summer season, slide into summer the easy way with Moran Chevrolet. If you're looking for a vehicle, they've got deals. Right now, you can lease a 2024 Trax 1RS for under $300 a month. Where are you finding deals like that? $294 a month with $999 down. And this is not an employee discount. No employee discount required. Moran has shipments arriving daily. They're going to have the vehicle you're looking for. Whether it is that Trax or something else, pick up your new ride, or they'll have it delivered directly. You can shop online, MoranExpress.com. Only at Moran Chevrolet, where you always get the best price, period. Check them out in-store on Gratiot, north of 15 Mile in Clinton Township. Check them out, Moran Chevrolet. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Texter says just because the Astros made a stupid trade doesn't mean another team is going to pay that price or more. There's no way the Tigers get that much for Flaherty. Well, then he should have taken that deal from the Astros. Isn't it pretty obvious if the market's not going to bear any more than that, he should have taken that deal? The Astros would have done that deal for Flaherty. He's a better pitcher than Kikuchi. I don't know why people are doing this defending of Harris before the deadlines even happen. We have every right to be nervous, every right to feel like he could screw this up. And we'll heap praise if he does a good job.
Well, we also have every right to sit there and say, well, let's see what happens between now and 5:59 tonight. I mean, the options are there. And he is doing, I would assume, he's doing everything he can to generate as much return as possible for Flaherty or for Skubal if he's still taking calls for Tarek Skubal.
Texter says people are praising the deal Toronto got because of who they were trading. They got some guys. That's not what I want. This person probably wants a top 100 prospect. Hey, me too. I think Flaherty's better than Kikuchi. Ideally, you want a hitter who's closer to major league level and in the top 100. That'd be the perfect return for Jack Flaherty.
Sure.
And I have no issue with Harris trying to drive the market up with 3 or 4 bidders until the deadline. But we saw him walk the line to the deadline last year. Didn't get it done.
Well, and if you're a team that is, and they were last year, they are this year, should be selling. You don't want to come out of a trade deadline like you did last year without having sold your number one asset. And I say that cautiously because the number one asset is Skubal.
And I'm cool if they don't trade him. I want to keep him.
Right, but the number one, the most sellable asset is Jack Flaherty.
Yeah, Texter says you guys are being, well, not you guys. Jim, you're creating controversy, Mr. Negative. I wouldn't be mad if we don't trade Flaherty. Why can't we keep him and sign him? Well, there just has to be the follow-through. That's the only caveat I'd put out there.
And we've said that there has to be follow-through and I don't expect there to be a contract announced today, but I do expect that, hey, by the time the season's over, they go they go through the process of qualifying offer and make sure that it's one that he will want and that he'll sign.
Because if he walks and you get the qualifying offer compensation, it's a player who will be drafted next summer who is probably 3 or 4 years away. And if you're keeping Skubal, you intend to be competitive the next couple years. I don't need another comp pick. I need to keep Flaherty if I'm not trading him by 6 o'clock today. Texter says, another pushback at me for being negative. What about the positive fact Harris was smart enough to sign Flaherty in the first place? Well, he signed him to a 1-year deal, which meant he was going to be flipped. Right, when you sign a pitcher to a 1-year deal, it's the Lorenzen thing from the year before. It's the mercenary. We're going to flip him if we're not in contention. They're not in contention. You don't get a win for just signing him. The intention was if you're not in contention that you could flip him and get something. That's the part of the equation he still has to solve for. We got some calls to get to, 248-539-9797. Jeff in Walled Lake, good morning. You're on 97.1.
Hey, good morning. So what you just said there about signing and flipping, could you just expand on that a little bit? Why not extend, you just mentioned it, why not extend Flaherty? And just give me a second to make some other Detroit sport comparisons, and you can tell me I'm being stupid. But Yzerman's been given like 8 years, and I'm not a huge hockey guy, but I know we got a guy, Larkin, Sider, Raymond. You never hear us talk about trading them, maybe a little bit of Larkin. And what do? We go out and sign veterans, Kane, Gustafson, to make the team better. And we're not even a playoff team. Then you jump over to the Pistons, no talk of trading Cade. And my comparison is, why do we even talk about trading Skubal? He's cheap. He may be arguably the next Clayton Kershaw, the best pitcher in baseball, and he's ours. Why not build around him and then extend Flaherty? Give Harris some credit. Okay, he got this guy on the cheap. He turned out pretty darn good. Why not extend him? Give him 4 years, $80 million or something, and let's build. Quit giving away our good players, and it's always next year. And I just don't trust management. We didn't get much for Verlander. We didn't get much for our past studs. I don't know. I want to build around these guys, and in the offseason, sign some hitters. I would love to hear today, Flaherty's been signed to an extension, and the Tigers, we're going to be really good next year. I can live with that. We seem to give Yzerman a pass all the time. Oh, we're going to be good next year. Well, I think it's been 8 years. I think he's been here 5. When does next year happen?
Right. No, and I think we've tried to turn up the heat a little bit on the wings because you can't rebuild forever.
Well, and we did talk about, hey, if you want to get a superstar, you're going to have to give something up. But we did mention Mo Sider possibly as somebody that you would have to get up if you want to get a superstar. And with the Pistons, there was conversation. Do you sign Cade to a max extension, or do you trade him and try and get a haul in return? Those were all part of the conversation. They weren't the focal point of our conversations.
No, and to be clear, my stance is pretty consistent. I didn't want to trade Sider. I didn't want to trade Cade. I don't want to trade Skubal. The reason it's come up is if Baltimore's going to pay through the nose, then you listen. And the question would be, if you can get 3 or 4 guys who end up panning out as major league hitters, then you consider it. But it's an unknown, and it's why I want to keep Skubal, and I want to try to contend in 2025. The Flaherty thing's weird because I don't think he's announcing an extension today. He should hit true free agency and see the market. I don't think the Tigers are going to race out in front to extend him today.
No, I don't think so either, but it's about the follow-through. And it's about, if they do want to win next year, then Skubal has to be a part of that conversation.
Yes.
You're not going to get a couple of arms back as well as a couple of bats. So if you're intending to win next year, it is going out and, you've got Skubal under contract. He's going to face arbitration. You're going to have to pay him some more. But you are also going to have to go out and sign some more bats to complement the young players that you believe you found this year. And there's nothing that says that they can't extend Flaherty. But it's about the follow-through. You are going to have to go out and spend money. The track record that we have of Scott Harris, and I'm not going to hold him to the standard or to the fire for, sins of previous decision makers. You didn't get enough back for Verlander. You didn't get enough back for all these other guys. At least they didn't pan out. It's not his fault. So this is his opportunity to go out there and show that he's a competent decision maker and get something for Flaherty. If you don't, it's the follow-through of re-signing him if that's the route that they want to go. But you have a trade chip. You have value. If you don't re-sign him or if you don't trade him and you let him walk, you get nothing in return for making a good decision for initially signing him.
Let's get to Heather with the news.
Oh,
ouch,
Jim,
Greg.
no,
that was Greg that played that.
I don't
have my little drop
hair.
board. It's not me.
Stop it. There's a new
Eyebrows.
push to revitalize. I do have eyebrows. To revitalize a historic part of Midtown Detroit. So they say in about a year, Detroit's Chinatown neighborhood will look remarkably different.
Okay.
There's a new multi-million-dollar renovation that's in the works, and they say the project is aimed to restore the neighborhood's cultural heritage through extensive streetscape improvements and more.
Love it.
I do too. There are a lot of fans that are outraged after they learned that the Paris Olympics flame is nothing more than a bunch of LED lights and not actually created by fire.
It's
all
fake.
fake. So it looked like real flames, right? When these
Sure did.
two French Olympians lit that Olympic cauldron with their torches, which the torches were actual fire. They were actual flames. But it all actually happened when somebody basically just flipped on a switch, right? It turned on the lights. So reports say that the base of the ring features 40 LED lights that illuminate a cloud of water vapor created by 200 high-pressure misting nozzles, replicating the appearance and flicker of real flames.
It's a lot of work. Why not just have a flame? Too dangerous?
No, it's not eco-friendly.
And this is the first time
Global
an Olympic
warming.
flame has been, entirely electric. And people are taken to Twitter, taken to social media to voice their disdain for this. Now, there are several Olympians that are going viral, and it's not for their skills or their athleticism. It's for their attire or their lack of attire, specifically some swimmers and divers. Yes, there is fans are apparently going wild. I did have to Google him because I didn't see him perform or dive. This French diver, he's wearing a Speedo. Doesn't leave much to the imagination, and
Not many Speedos
getting
do.
a lot of followers. And there's another swimmer, a Dutch swimmer, that's also going viral for basically the same reasons. Now he's not wearing a Speedo; it's like those shorts, those like really tight shorts.
Oh, yeah, like-
but they're like flesh colored, and you can basically see through them. So
they're see-through.
Well, they're not, but
She said basically. Close.
there's enough.
But could you please describe more for us? I'm
There's
not
enough there that
understanding.
you can imagine.
How much did you
what's
study
underneath.
this?
That whole time I was sitting there at that table, I was just Googling photos.
Zooming in.
And maybe now because of this, because these guys are getting so much attention, there's a number of high-profile Olympic athletes that are turning to OnlyFans to raise some extra money. I'm not. There's quite a few of them. There's a British diver, Jack Laffer. He's on OnlyFans.
He's a laugher.
$10 a month, so not a lot, and it's all safe for work material he's posting. Like he's not doing any full frontals here, right? They're all just probably him in his Speedo, right? Kind of shirtless. They all look good, right? They're
Olympians.
0% body fat. And there's a bunch of others too, all British that are doing this. There's some retired athletes as well that say, hey, this is just a way to make extra money. This guy, this British diver, he says he's he's one of the top 3 in the world, and he's only making $36,000 from his diving. So he needs some extra money. He says, I've always kind of been a hustler. Notice that, hey, he says, where's his quote? It's funny. It's something about, like, obviously I've got what people want, and he's taking advantage of it.
Confident.
So
Sell yourself.
that's exactly what he's doing. Hey, former Tiger and current Orioles catcher James McCann, did you see what happened to him?
Got hit in the face.
Drilled in the face by a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. Yeah, and that's the thing. Crumbles to the ground, right? Blood coming out of his nose. Shakes it off.
Yeah.
Get out.
Stayed in.
Post-game interview, he couldn't even open his eye.
Like,
it's awesome.
I mean, but just
how can you catch if you can only have the one eye?
Maybe you only need one.
Okay.
There's no word yet on like the true extent of what injuries, but man, can't be
look
good.
Yeah.
Finally, everyone uses their phone, right? We're always on our phone. We're glued to it, and now doctors are warning of phone injuries. So there's this sports medicine doctor from Cleveland Clinic that says no one is immune to phone-related injuries like smartphone pinky and tech neck. So the smartphone pinky is when you're constantly using your pinky to steady your phone, and the weight of the device on your pinky can compress a nerve, causing numbness and tingling.
Look out for that, John.
Your pinky is that fragile?
Well, maybe not your pinky, John, but apparently other people's. Bunch of weak pinkies out there.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Not as tough as John with manly pinkies.
Let's work on that grip a little bit. Come on.
The tech neck is obviously from staring down at your phone for too long, so the key is to take a break.
Is that what Stoney had? Was that what the hunch was for?
Yeah. That was developed long before cell phones.
All right.
So they say every 20 minutes you should take 20 seconds to look at something that is 20 feet away. Okay. Take these little quick breaks.
We got practice 20 feet away.
20.
Let's keep an eye on it.
Yep.
All right, we got Graham Glasgow next. It's 97.1.
Hey, we're out here live at training camp, which means football season is finally here. So why not watch all of the best matchups, whether it's the NFL or college, next to the best pool in history, that's Stadium Swim, and it's located at Circa Resort and Casino. You can catch all the biggest games at a viewing experience that is absolutely built for sports fans. Chill in one of the 6 pools on 3 different levels for a perfect view of the massive 40-foot tall, high-definition screen, that's Stadium Swim, and it really is America's favorite place to watch all of your football games. You got swim-up bars, instant-ready selfie walls, and one non-stop party. Score your perfect game day spot with cozy day beds, private cabanas, or grab a lounge at the center of the action. You can reserve your spot today. It's 365 days of sports, no matter the season, poolside. Located at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Stadium Swim, all sports, all seasons. Book your spot today at circlelasvegas.com.
John, we do have an injury to update people on from Lions practice. Never a fun thing to do. John Kaminsky rolled up on in practice, carted off the field.
It's going to happen. We'll wait and see what they have to say. Is it an ankle? Was it just, hey, we're going to take him back just for observation, see what's going on? Is it something more? We have no idea. And no one is ever expendable. You're just glad to know that it's not one of the key components.
One of the starters. Yeah, and again, Kaminsky a couple years ago was super helpful at the end of 2022. Last year, not as much.
He's a role guy. And there's a role that he'll fill, and I expect him to be on the roster this year, even though things are tightening up. But he's not a guy that's going to get 60 snaps a game.
And again, it's something that was brought up yesterday. It's a violent game. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. It's part of training camp. You just hope it's nobody, critically important, and you hope nobody gets critically injured.
Right, and if it is something that's going to keep them out, 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever, there's still plenty of time between now and the start of the regular season. If somebody's going to get hurt, now's the time to do it because you got time to rehab.
Our last chance to talk before the deadline. What happens? Call your shot.
Flaherty's moved, Scooble's here, and, what they get in return.
Will you be satisfied with it?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm just saying, what do you expect? Do you think Harris is going to do a good job?
I do think he'll do a good job of getting good value for Flaherty. Will they get as much as the Astro deal? I don't know. I'm not going to judge it off of that. I'm just going to simply judge it off of what I know you will, but I'm just going to simply judge it off. Did they get a good value in return for Jack Flaherty?
But how we judge value is the market, right? How we judge value is...
Well, yeah, but there's always going to be one-offs. There's always guys that sign a deal. You're like, where did that come from?
Right, but the reports are that the Astros were barking up the Flaherty tree. Harris held out because he thinks he's worth more.
And maybe he is.
And if he can't get more than that deal, then he effed up.
So then you just give him away for whatever somebody's willing to offer?
No, you would have taken if you turned down the best deal in the market to get less than it later, you get criticized.
Unless you just are like, I'm not going to give them away. I'm not going to give them away for somebody that's either not going to be here. It doesn't fit what we're doing as an organization. I'm not just going to give them away for a deal that another club may have felt was good enough for them, and maybe it is. We got to wait and see what it is that Scott Harris gets for Flaherty. And if nothing happens today, I don't know that it'll shock me. Will it shock you?
A little bit. They scratched him. They are shopping him. If they don't trade him, I would be surprised.
I would be. I don't know. I would be surprised, but I won't be shocked. There's no shock value in it for me.
And you and I are consistent.
It goes to the follow through.
Yes, there has to. If you're not trading him, it can't be. Well, we're going to let him go for a comp pick. You're keeping Scoobel. You're trying to win next year. Forget about your comp pick. If you extend him, I understand. We got Doug and Gator standing by.
Yes, you do.
Hello, Doug.
Hello, John.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Gator.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Heather.
Oh, you got both of them. Yeah, in unison.
Short show for you guys, huh? Deadline day.
I don't know if it's a short show today.
Yeah, it might be rain. We could get interruptions, so we'll be on standby. We'll be in a holding pattern when we throw it to Tiger Baseball at 12:45.
Feel so bad for you.
Must be
I'm
tough.
sure. Yeah, we're fine with it.
This is one of those days you're just going to stick around by the computer anyway, or
refresh.
Looking at your phone constantly. I've looked more at my phone on Twitter in the last 36 hours than I have in the previous 10 years. It's unbelievable. Just don't stop. Don't stop. Yeah. Won't stop. Well, today at 6, I might stop.
Well, we'll have the latest on anything going on Tiger trade rumors today and any moves that are made. People are talking this morning. We'll have updates. No deal done yet this morning, but it could go down at any second.
We anticipate that it will be about 10:02.
Yeah, I understand why you would do that. We anticipate it'll happen at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, after the Tiger game.
Well, all right. You guys are coming up next. Carson Anderson, they'll be all over the deadline. It's 97.1.
All right, it's Carson Anderson. It is trade deadline day in Major League Baseball, and there's a lot to discuss. Movement last night, Tigers not involved, and we await any moves today. Could go down at any time, and of course, we'll be all over it if and when it happens, monitoring all the different sources and keeping the phone on stun at any time it could buzz, and we could get word that a deal has been done. So stick with us today here on 97.1 The Ticket. And there's
you got the stun phone?
Yep. You've got to think that the Tigers right now, that Scott Harris's phone is burning up as much as anybody's. Yesterday, it was interesting in that deals were made that could impact the market a little bit. And there's some reasons to be encouraged and there's reasons to be concerned. As it stands right now, Gator, what is your gut on this trade deadline day? You think we see movement?
Yeah, I think Flaherty gets dealt. I think there's too much interest from too many teams. I mean, he's the prize to get at this point. I don't know if the White Sox are able to move Crochet, and even if they do, Crochet's like limited with innings. So that's a concern that they have, and they thought they had this great trade piece, and yet they're not really sure they do anymore, and they're frustrated with what's going on with his situation, and I'm not sure if the interest is as hearty because of that innings limitation. But we've got Jack Flaherty and we've got Tarek Skubal, and I don't suspect that there's going to be the deal for Skubal. The way Baltimore's acted, you can take one of two ways. Either Baltimore wants no part in getting rid of their high-end prospects, or they're doing everything they can to improve their team just a little bit here and there with, feeding the birds a little bit, and then they can make a giant move because they haven't moved any of those prospects yet. They still have them all to move if they have to. My gut tells me Tarek Skubal stays here, and they move Flaherty, to the Orioles. And they won't get Jackson Holiday, but they might get Kobe Mayo. They might get Connor Norby. They might get one of those guys. I don't think the Tigers would settle for an outfielder that Baltimore has, and they have several. It just seems like, I was doing some math last night, Tigers have a lot of outfielders on their own roster and guys that are young that they want to get a look at. When you start thinking of an outfield that begins with Parker Meadows, Riley Green, and Kerry Carpenter, and then you've got Wenzel Perez and Matt Vierling and Malloy and others.
I mean, I guess I don't know that
you always look for an upgrade.
Yeah, I don't know if I see anybody outside of Riley Green having superstar potential.
Well, I mean, Kerry Carpenter was better than Riley Green.
Yeah, I think Riley Green will have a better career than Kerry Carpenter.
You just don't like Kerry Carpenter.
No, I don't love him as much as you do. But I at this point, even if he does, that doesn't mean I'm not waiting around for Parker Meadows. I'm not waiting around for Wenzel Perez.
I get that. I get that. And that's what I'm just saying. It seems like they've got a whole bunch of guys. Like if you're going to add somebody to the mix, like let's say Heston Kjerstad is the one that's offered up for Jack Flaherty. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to think of that. If that is that worth it or not? And okay, it is. If it is, how much more of an upgrade is over the guys we have? Does it really make sense? And there's a lot to weigh there. And there's going to be some hard decisions that this team's going to have to make moving forward just because they have a lot of guys at different positions. Even second base right now seems like in the future, this is going to be a dogfight for who's going to be there. If Howie Lee continues to progress, I mean, he's at Double A and he's killing it at Double A. If he breezes through AAA, does the same thing. You got Jace Young there. You've got Colt Keats playing there now. They got a bunch of guys. If you traded Connor Norby, he's a second baseman. Like, wow,
you know what it is though? It's hoarding assets and playing the percentage that enough of these guys are going to hit.
Yeah.
I don't think I stop hoarding assets at a position because I've got guys that might hit. I just keep collecting and collecting and collecting. And
I'm just bringing it up. I'm not saying I wouldn't either. And I think you're right. You hoard as many assets as you can, and then maybe you deal from positions of strength. Oh, I've got 5 outfielders. Fine. I'll deal 1 or 2 and get a pitcher that I need.
All right, so as it stands right now, again, no trades for the Tigers yet. Deadline's at 6 o'clock. The Tigers could move multiple commodities today. It's not just the pitchers. Mark Cannon could get moved. Gio Urshela could get moved. Heck, bullpen arms could get moved. Obviously, the for sale sign features Tarek Skubal and Jack Flaherty. And that movement Monday could impact the market. Milwaukee, who is rumored to be talking to Detroit about Jack Flaherty, was reported that they got a starting pitcher and Frankie Montas from the Reds. He's not having a great year. I don't know if that excludes them from moving on Flaherty. The Astros probably are done, though. They got a starting pitcher in Yusei Kikuchi, and they sent back what is considered quite the haul of prospects. Their number 3 prospect, the starting pitcher, Jake Bloss. They've got a guy who has been called up. He was their number 5 prospect in Joey Lipperfido, a power-hitting outfielder, and then Will Wagner, an infielder, number 19 prospect. Seems like a good return for a pitcher who had an ERA over 4, but has had some success. Flaherty, and this is where I get sketchy. Why hasn't Flaherty been moved? There's a variety of reasons it's possible. When you get into the paranoia, I get scared. You want your GM to ask for the most you can possibly and get the most you can possibly get. Is it possible he's asking for too much? Is it possible that that's why the Astros moved on? Because this package of players that the Astros gave up to get Kikuchi feels like it would be a Flaherty-type return.
Well, what'd they get again? What were the
They
rank
got Jake Bloss, their number 3 prospect. They got a kid that's been called up who was a power-hitting outfielder that was their number 5 prospect. They got 2 of the Astros' top 10 prospects, and they got another guy at number 19. I don't know anything about him other than the numbers of where they're rated. But if you're to tell me that Flaherty gets moved for 3 top 20 prospects, including 2 in some teams' top 5, I would think that was a reasonable return. And most of what I read about it is, wow, the Astros gave up a lot.
Yeah, it seemed like that's what I read as well. But was it 1 top 100 prospect in all of baseball? If that, I'm not sure if Bloss was there or not. But it's can I expect something better? Yeah, I do expect something better from the Tigers. And I think you look at the teams that are still looking for that pitching. There's still a bunch of teams, and if the Tigers have the best of the best, then yet you should hold out for it. Scott Harris saw the offer from Houston. It's like, that's nice, but it's not quite what we're looking for.
Maybe Houston liked Kikuchi better than they liked Flaherty. The numbers wouldn't support that, but maybe they did, and maybe they didn't want Flaherty for that asking price. But so the other part of this, the other side of this is, wow, the prices are high, and they're going to score really well for Flaherty. They're going to really get a return on Flaherty.
Well, there is that as well. I think that they will, because I think you've got like Baltimore, the Dodgers, the Brewers, and the Yankees all seem to be jockeying for a top starter. And
San Diego, Atlanta, Cleveland.
Yeah, those are the more teams, right?
Yep.
So even if you do include, let's include Crochet in the mix. Did you got Crochet and who? It's Crochet and Flaherty. So all these teams still looking for it. So they're going to get a deal from somebody. Someone's going to outbid somebody else. At some point today, Scott Harris is going to inform those teams, I need your best and final offer today by 3:00. And the teams will decide, okay, here's my best and final. And then they get to look at it all and say, this is what's best for the team, and they'll move forward. To me, my gut tells me it's going to be Baltimore. I think Baltimore's going to end up, all they're going to have to do is part with one of their top guys.
It doesn't scare you at all that they did it last year, you think, Gator, and they don't want to go back to the same?
I think last year is so different because of the pitcher that you were dealing with. You had a guy who is, just a weird situation with Eduardo Rodriguez all around with his tenure with the Tigers and all the time he missed the year before. And
I'm talking about Flaherty going back to the Orioles.
I don't think. I'm sorry with that.
Yeah,
no, I don't think that has anything to do with it because it is a different situation. Jack Flaherty was a below-average pitcher last year when he was traded. It's not like they gave him huge assets to get him, and then he was god-awful with the Orioles. This year, Jack Flaherty's one of the better pitchers in baseball.
It's such a weird situation. It may just work, but it's incredibly unusual for a team to trade for the same player at the trade deadline.
Didn't it just happen?
I'm a little.
It just happened yesterday. I forget who the player was, but
I don't know. You have to. I didn't see that.
I saw a trade that went down. I thought that somebody had just traded for it last year too.
I'm a little worried. I hope you guys are right about Flaherty because did you see Ben Verlander, what he tweeted last night?
No.
He works. Justin Verlander's younger brother, of course, but he works for Fox Sports as an MLB analyst. He tweeted last night, the Astros first checked in with the Tigers and pivoted when the asking price was too high, apparently.
Yep.
Tigers, this could have been you. And everyone's praising the Blue Jays for what they got.
Yeah, and it's like Flaherty's better than Kikuchi, but man, that's started to float around the back of my mind is that Scott Harris is trying to hit a home run when the double or triple will be fine, but you don't want to undersell either. So it's threading the needle. It's finding that sweet spot.
Well, it depends what you want in return. I mean, the Astros' best player they gave up was a pitcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the Tigers wanted, or the Tigers they're targeting something else? We need to get something on the left side of the infield. We need a corner infielder. We need a shortstop.
That could be it. 248-539-9797. We'll get to your phone calls and feedback. We got a Twitter poll out there that you can go vote on right now. Check it out. We'll get to that coming up today at 10:24. Tell you what it is, but go participate, and we'll read some of the comments on that thread on the air. In the meantime, a couple of announcements. Today we're giving away a 4-pack of tickets to an exclusive 97.1 The Ticket MGO Blue preview. This is Wednesday, August 7th at the Music Town Studios inside Hockey Town. That is myself, John Jansen, Wojo, and Stoney. Gator, you're invited if you'd like to come. We discuss the upcoming 2024 Michigan season, plus we'll have player appearances, giveaways, food and drink, and much more. And the only way to get in is to win them on 97.1 The Ticket, presented by Pepsi. We'll have a Carson Anderson quiz question today at 12:26. 12:26. A Carson Anderson quiz question. It might be something along the line like, who's the player that Doug said Gator likes more than Doug likes him? And the answer would be Kerry Carpenter. I don't dislike Kerry Carpenter. I just don't like him as much as you do. But anyway, the point being, that would be an example of a quiz question. First one with the correct answer at 12:26 will get the 4-pack of tickets for this MGO Blue preview prior to the 2024 college football season. That's August 7th at the Music Town Studios inside the Hockey Town Cafe. So stay tuned for that. Hey, tired of hitting the same old corner spots or the wing spot for the same flat beer that's warm by the time you finish it? Well, let me let you in on a little secret. Twin Peaks is the best place to watch any game, anytime. For starters, they got the best draft beer in the state. It takes at least 6 hours to freeze their mugs properly. They keep enough on hand where a mug is only used once an entire day. Combine that with a beer system that pours it at a teeth-chattering 29 degrees, and you'll see those glaciers rising up out of the mug. Talk about beer crystals. Now pair that with the wings. Man, have you seen their wings? They are a full meal in themselves. You can do them 4 different ways. There's boneless wings, which are never frozen, hand-cut and breaded to order, fried to order. You can't beat that. They're bone-in and bone-in breaded, and smoked wings are bigger than your favorite wing spot. Now toss any of those wings in 12 possible sauces and rubs, and you are in heaven. Some of their favorites include the made in-house bourbon teriyaki, the pineapple habanero, and then the beautiful Twin Peaks girls, their favorite is the spicy Thai chili. And as an added bonus, they're throwing a summer bikini bash until Thursday. Why go anywhere else? Don't forget to book your fantasy football draft parties. TwinPeaksRestaurant.com for that. Special perks to league commissioners. Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, scenic views. Tiger trade deadline, no moves as of yet. But you get the sense things are afoot as the Tigers right now hold two of the commodities that are most coveted by teams in contention. One is the classic rental veteran starting pitcher.
And the best one in the market.
Yes. The other is maybe the best pitcher in baseball, which would be under club control for 3 postseasons. We asked a question on Twitter today. What do you hope happens? There are 4 options. Option 1, nobody dealt. Option 2, just Flaherty dealt for an MLB-ready prospect. Option 3, just Skubal dealt for an historic haul of prospects. Option 4, both Flaherty and Skubal dealt. What do you think is winning right now?
This is what you want to see, or what do you think?
What do you want to see happen?
I think people will want to see the 4th option.
Both dealt?
Yeah.
Okay. You would get an MLB-ready prospect back for Flaherty and a haul of historic prospects back for Skubal. Historic haul. Right now.
And then, by the way, and chaos the rest of the season because of the pitching staff.
Oh, sure. You're talking about the Tigers.
That's the byproduct is that, okay.
Yeah.
Salmons, welcome to the rotation.
Yep. Lyle Lakewood or Lockwood or
yep, him.
Welcome to the rotation. Jackson Jobe, not you.
Not yet.
All right. With 2.2% of the vote in a distant 4th place, just Skubal dealt. With 16.1% of the vote, nobody dealt. With 39.2% of the vote, both dealt. And with 42.5% of the vote, just Flaherty dealt. Here's some of the feedback we've gotten. Patrick McCullough writes in, I want to know who the person is that thinks we should deal Skubal and hold Flaherty. I need to understand the logic.
Well, if you get this tremendous, let's say it just happens because the Skubal deal happens first. You're able to work the Skubal deal. You get a great haul of players in return.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Flaherty market just fizzles out.
Well, that's why it would happen. The question is this, if people that want it to happen probably want
the qualifying
all
offer
the prospects and want to keep Flaherty on the cheap, I guess. They don't want to spend the money it would take to keep Skubal. I don't know.
Well, I think if you don't trade Flaherty, then the thought is that you'll get a compensatory pick, and if he stays healthy, the compensatory pick is going to be between the 1st and 2nd round, which is a pretty good
the problem with baseball picks, it is a nice little reward that you get to see in 2029. Like it just
maybe right,
yeah, or maybe never. Baseball draft picks,
but it's another opportunity.
It is.
It's something that you would get for losing your guy.
From Wazam on Twitter, deal both. Baltimore should recognize they need to push in their chips this year. To do that, they need to have an elite AAA club. No, wait, they need the best pitcher in baseball, not an elite AAA club. You're on a 2-year clock as GM, and the owner needs to spend wisely. If you trade, you get a pass for 2025. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with all of these, hoarding all these prospects, is the rebuild clock gets set back. If you keep Skubal, even if you just move Flaherty and keep Skubal, it feels like it's reasonable to try and win next year.
Yeah.
If you trade them both, it's probably not reasonable to try and win next year, and we're going through another rebuild year. And that's a bitter pill for fans to swallow. Even if you think it's the smartest move, it
doesn't have to be that. Like, if you want to be one of these hardliners and you demand that they spend the money, if they get the haul in return for both of those players, okay, you've fixed the left side of your infield. You got a shortstop, you got a third baseman, and let's say you also end up with a pitcher because you're trading both of these guys. You go into next season, and what's the concern? Pitching would be the concern. The lineup, you feel like, okay, they've improved the lineup because they added those guys to the left side of the infield. There's going to be some growing pains because they haven't really played yet.
That's the thing.
There's definitely that. But what do you want? Did you want a bridge? Because it would be a bridge anyway. And the pitching staff would be, you'd have Reese Olson, Casey Mize, and Jackson Jobe probably, and then the fan base would demand that you go out in the offseason and you sign at least one starting pitcher of substance.
I get that they could. It's just far less likely they compete in 2025 if they trade both Flaherty and Skubal. I mean, the growing pains aren't only to be – the growing pains are to be expected. Not all the prospects are going to make it. They didn't improve the lineup. If they get two starters that are pretty decent, even then they're in their rookie seasons.
Right, but what have they gotten out of third base and shortstop this year?
Not much.
Okay, so are they? I don't think it's a slam dunk that would be worse.
Well, I guess you and I have a disagreement. If they trade Skubal and Flaherty, I don't think they're competing next year. I just don't.
Well, I would expect them to go out in the free agent market and get some pitching.
It's a lot easier to do it if you're building around Skubal. Well,
that I won't disagree with.
Thoughts of Hinch. You have to trade Skubal if you get holiday mail plus more. Skubal's my favorite Tiger since Maglio, but I can understand it's better for the long-term health of this franchise to add at least two high-ceiling everyday bats to this lineup. Jeffrey writes in via Twitter, I'm indifferent if Flaherty and Skubal are traded or not. What I want Harris to do is show max value and direction. If either are traded, they get a haul. They get a haul, I think he meant, of high prospects who'll be MLB ready by 25. If they aren't traded, they'll be the core with extended deals next season. And I think Jeffrey's right in that regard. 248-539-9797. More of your phone calls and feedback coming up. It's Carson Anderson. We've got open lines. Trade deadline day. Nothing done by the Tigers yet. An MLB insider gives us the latest. You'll hear what he had to say this morning at 10:50 on Carson Anderson on 97.1. You know what's funny? I really like the idea of building around Skubal moving forward. I also like the idea of trading Skubal for this boatload, as we put it in the Twitter question, a historic haul of prospects. Both work for me. They put the team on different timelines or different ways to try and get to the mountaintop. But the idea of, Wednesday or Thursday, the Tigers have a Jackson Holiday at short and, Basallo behind the plate or, Norby. You really can get excited about a young, exciting group of position players. But that starts the timeline. It sets you back. And I don't know how much people want to accept that. But it would have to be, as we put it in the Twitter question, a historic haul.
Yeah, I don't think people want to trade Skubal. I think what people look at and see is that he's a free agent after a couple of seasons, and his agent is one that is difficult to deal with. And if he is what we think he is, which is one of the best pitchers in baseball, that the price is just going to be astronomical, and it's just going to be the Yankees or the Dodgers that have the deepest of a treasure chest to dip into that are going to end up with him. So you don't want to lose him for nothing. I think that's the overwhelming feeling that we have as Tiger fans, is that they're not going to be able to re-sign him as much as we'd like to. Like, hey, give him an extension now. But if they're unwilling, Scott Boras is unwilling to listen to extension talks because he wants to get his client to free agency, then what do you do?
248-539-9797. Ed is on a cell, and I 97 want to take it. What's up, Ed?
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I say just hang on to our assets and just make a better plan, on the off season. It doesn't look like we're going to make the playoffs, and if we do make the playoffs, we'll be out in the first round anyway.
Actually, the wild thing is if they make the playoffs and they keep these pitchers and Reese Olson's healthy, I wouldn't immediately concede the first round. If you have a healthy Skubal, Flaherty, and Reese Olson, if they keep those guys, I don't think they'd make the playoffs.
I was going to say, can we just stop with the playoff talk?
Yeah, the playoff percent chances are so minimal, but I wouldn't have, if they did make it, it means they're playing much better, and I wouldn't concede a series with these three pitchers to anybody if they had to do the heavy lifting to get there. With that said, you're not in favor of trading them either.
Just develop the assets we have. I'm not really sure what's in the farm system that can fill the gaps where we're weak at, but I think we need another year to just figure things out.
Well, he sounds really enthusiastic,
doesn't he?
It's
fire up.
I mean, Flaherty is the thing that just kind of sets this off. He's a free agent at the end of the year, and I'm sure he's dying to test free agency because he just rebuilt his career this season. And as well as he's pitched, he's going to look at a qualifying offer in the neighborhood of $20 million. So if he's going to get a qualifying offer in the neighborhood of $20 million, what's he going to get long term? I mean, he'll get a 3-year deal from somebody that's going to be worth $75 million. So if I were Jack Flaherty, hey, Detroit's been great, but I got to do what's best for Jack Flaherty, and that's make the life-changing money with your next contract. It's not likely to come from the Tigers.
248-539-9797. Robert, you're next. What's up, Robert?
Morning, guys. Love the show.
Thank you.
I think the biggest concern for Tiger fans is we frankly don't know and are skeptical that this owner is going to pony up the money to keep Skubal. And I hate the argument that we're not Pittsburgh, we're not Cincinnati, we're not Milwaukee. Like, when you look at the market size, I know we're not the Yankees, I know we're not Boston, but man, it's frustrating, especially with the former owner. He would go over and above, and so I think that's where a lot of the frustration.
He didn't do that right away. He went over above when it was time to go over. When it was time to go over and above, then he did.
Oh, 100%. The first decade plus, he was absent owner. I think would be a fair way to say it. But I think that's the recency bias, right? We remember him going all in for Prince Fielder and so on and so forth. But so if they're not going to keep him, And if that's been established, which again is frustrating, because at what point, then yeah, you go for the haul to remake your entire infield. You slide Cole Keith to first, holidays, and that's the exciting thing too. And so I'm kind of with you guys in that regard. It would be exciting, like in 2 days from now, 3 days from now, most of those guys that we would get from Baltimore, like that's been established, they're ready to play. They're just blocked.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's exciting to me. But then again, it's just like, why can't we keep a star? It's like, for frick's sake.
Well, they can. They can keep a star, and I don't think we should concede that he is gone.
Yeah, but that's my frustration. It's just like when people talk about, he's going to want $300 million. Well, yeah. And how much revenue are they making? It's just that's the frustration.
I would also
thing,
caution
the
this. I said this yesterday. The other thing I caution is looking at Tarek Skubal and his career to this point. I'm a huge fan of him. All right, I think he's an outstanding pitcher. Might be the best pitcher in baseball right now.
But you're going to talk injury, aren't you, Gator?
Well, it's hard not to.
No, I know. I'm just joking.
It's hard not to. Honestly, in 2021, he had appeared in 31 games, had 29 starts. The next year, he made 21 starts. The next year, which was last year, he made 15 starts. And then this year, he's been healthy, knock on wood here, and he's made the 21 starts. But, I mean, that's a track record of a guy who doesn't have a track record of staying healthy. So am I going to be that excited about signing somebody? Hey, let's give him an extension now. I'll give you 5 years and $180 million to stay with the Tigers. Would that be enough to do it? And then, oh my God, what have I just done? We committed to him for 5 years, and the guy hasn't been able to stay healthy for a single season.
One of the things that doesn't help the reputation of the owner is that the biggest contract he signed is terrible. The Javi Baez deal is terrible.
Yes.
And it's an example of where the owner did spend money, and it's a hauntingly bad contract, unfortunately for this team. I believe in spending money when it's time to give gas. If they keep Skubal, they don't have to sign him to a contract just yet. They keep him, and he is part of this team, and they give no gas to the engine, no significant, not a bunch of cannas, okay, who are nice players and can help you on a good team.
They're depth players.
You need some difference makers. And I think, I don't want to speak for you. I personally been pretty damn patient with Chris Ilitch and kind of understand why they haven't given it gas. They haven't felt close. They haven't felt close to me pretty much this entire time here, which could be a whole nother discussion. But if they finish this season, I don't know how they're going to finish the season if they trade Flaherty.
You better put it in perspective.
They feel closer now than they've been. And if they've got a timeline on Skubal, that the only thing they know. Because, Boris comes to the table and says, I want $700 million over half a season. Like something absurd, right? The point being, the only thing you know is you got him for 2 more years after this. You better give it gas.
I wonder how much this Bally's Comcast thing, what role that has to play in it, because that's revenue that comes to the teams as well, because they have to pay rights deals. Is that beneficial to the Tigers? Is it stagnant with the Tigers, or is it not as lucrative as was once believed? Does this affect it at all? Because you've got other teams, and this is where the Yankees have the biggest advantage over everybody, is their media deal. And the Yankees media deal pays them, I believe, well in excess of $200 million a year. Their payroll is taken care of right off the bat before they sell a single ticket or foam finger. So I wonder if this has anything to do with it. Is this brighter days ahead? Are they like doing high fives over in the pizza slice glass building or not?
I don't think it is, because I just go back to whatever they're telling us, right? Scott Harris has said this. This is what we know on record. They're trying to build a foundation. They're trying to build a core. As far as spending, they're not at that level yet, because they're still trying to build a foundation. Right. Okay, he said this. So my question is Skubal part of this foundation and core? Because if he's not, then he can trade him for a haul that could be the foundation and core. So this is clearly today's a big day for Scott Harris and the Tigers on where their timeline is and who's part of this foundation and core. Because he said once they build that, then they'll start spending. But what's the core then, right? Is Skubal part of the core, guys? or they have to trade him to get that foundation?
248-539-9797. It's a great question. We go to Dave in Royal Oak next. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Hey.
I don't follow this the way you guys do, but it just seems to me that once Mike Ilitch died, I don't think it's a coincidence that you see the Tigers and the Red Wings just head down to about 500 if they're lucky. And that has made I think that's one of the keys here is he was willing to spend the money. And as for the current thing, the trade deadline, if they're going to field a team where every time they get somebody pretty good, they sell them, then they're never going to get anywhere because what you're always doing is putting it off. The rebuild will be next year.
Dave, I guess, look, two things.
Yeah.
One, in hockey, there's a cap. The Red Wings don't go cheap in hockey. Secondly is they continue. If you're selling your rentals, these are guys that are, there's a high probability that Flaherty won't be here next year, even if you sell him. So now the Skubal thing's a little bit different, but in what they've sold, they sold Lorenzen last year, rental. They're trying to sell Flaherty this year, rental. So they're continuing to hoard prospects so that they can get there sooner. And what they're doing is trading players that probably won't be here next year anyway.
But Dave, we've also seen teams in the past that have been perennial traders that have won the World Series. Kansas City, Tampa Bay. These are perennially teams that do a great job of developing players, and when it comes time to give those players the contract, they just can't do it, and they trade them off, and they get a bunch of assets for them. They both won recently.
What's the latest on Flaherty this morning? MLB Insider tells us today at 10:48 here on Carson Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket. Doug Carr, Scott Anderson, 97 won a ticket. Yes. Trade deadline day. No moves made by the Tigers in the last couple of hours. They did make that move where they moved off of Carson Kelly, and Dylan Dingler made his debut last night. Had a double, which was kind of awesome. Anyway, as it stands right now, nothing new on Skubal, nothing new on Flaherty. You've got Urshela, you've got Canna, you've got bullpen arms that could be moved. There's stuff that happened, though, that could impact the market. One of them is Garrett Crochet. His agency, CAA, said he wouldn't pitch in October unless he received a contract extension first.
What?
So his agency said that. So
what?
He will not pitch in October unless he gets a contract extension. You remember you were talking earlier in the show about innings. They don't want to risk injury if he doesn't get a contract extension. He wants the extension now, and then he'll be willing to risk the injury and take his body. I mean, he never started a major league game before this year, and he'll push it if he gets his new contract now. But that probably diminishes his trade value. But does that mean Skubal becomes more attractive to a team that has been looking at Skubal or Crochet? In the meantime, the interesting deal for Kikuchi, where what they got back is being hailed as pretty good. There was a great quote from Jim Bowden on how this impacts the Tigers. He wrote, "Teams might tell Scott Harris, sorry, we're not going to do something stupid just because the Astros seemingly overpaid." So, was that Astros package of players available to the Tigers for Flaherty? And Harris said no, and Toronto said yes. Toronto was not dealing as good a pitcher as Harris is trying to deal.
Well, I have to believe that there's lots of talk with the Tigers, obviously over Flaherty, but also still with Skubal. MLB Pipeline tweeted this out 3 minutes ago. The Braves, Dodgers, Orioles, Padres, Phillies, and Red Sox have reportedly shown interest in lefty Garrett Crochet. So the pitcher you just talked about, the White Sox, who apparently doesn't want to pitch into October unless he's got an extension, which is kind of unheard of at this point, but okay. But the fact that there are like 6 teams there listed that are interested in Crochet, you think those 6 teams are also interested in Skubal?
You would think.
Yeah.
But if Crochet is saying I'm not pitching in the new postseason without a new contract, that might turn teams' attention to Skubal. Now, with that said, let's start with John Morosi this morning on MLB Network. How recent developments and other trades have gone down. How does that impact the Flaherty market? Yeah, both teams have been involved with Jack Flaherty, and the Kikuchi trade feels to me like it's setting a good market for Flaherty. And in the back of my mind, I just hope they're not asking too much.
Well, I think anytime we get to the day of the trade deadline, that you start to feel that way naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the amount of teams that are still in it looking for a quality start, not just a quality, but a great starting pitcher, and the Tigers have 2 of them, something's going to get done. It may not be, I don't think it's going to be the Skubal deal, but I think the Flaherty deal gets done. And in the end, my gut tells me it's Baltimore.
All right. In the meantime, he gave the very latest on Skubal and the possibility of Skubal, and he had a heated argument with the studio crew. Not heated. It was an intense.
Heated.
It wasn't heated. I don't want to overplay it. An intense. Kang, you saw it. Heated is too strong.
Yeah, that's way too strong, Doug.
Battle lines are drawn.
It was.
Morosi didn't throw a punch or anything.
No. Well, let's get to what he first.
Is there a trident?
What he had to say this morning about Skubal. All right, so there it was. That's from this morning. Now, he just went on MLB Network in the last half hour, and the studio crew there was saying the Orioles aren't giving up all that. They shouldn't give up all that. They got all this stuff. They shouldn't give it up. And it got Morosi kind of revved up.
Yeah.
And he said, look, why do you draft, when you draft this well, and they've drafted extraordinarily well, they've got a front line and a second line group of young players that can all play. Would it be better for them to have the elite starting pitcher than have another catching prospect? They got Adley Rutschman, move Basallo. Would it be better for them to have an elite starting pitcher or another shortstop prospect? Yeah, Jackson Holliday's great, but they have Gunnar Henderson and Kobe Mayo and all these extra parts that they don't necessarily need. Do they need Connor Norby, or are they happy with Jordan Westberg, who's 25 years old and almost has 20 home runs and has got an 826 OPS? They don't need all this, was Morosi's point. And it's odd and feels, I agree with him, it feels like stubborn of the Orioles if they're not. Now, maybe they will, but if they don't want to part for all that for Tarek Skubal, I wonder how serious they are about trying to win this year's World Series.
Yeah, and that's why if I were an Oriole fan, I'd be so pissed right now, because you've got guys at the major league level, guys that are playing on the team right now. You mentioned Westberg, who plays third base. I mentioned yesterday Mountcastle, who plays first base. These are two guys that mash the ball pretty well. And you know what they're doing? They're preventing Kobe Mayo from playing. They're preventing, Connor Norby from having an everyday opportunity, although Norby's starting to get some play now. And you mentioned Rutschman. Well, Rushman's preventing Basayo and Gunnar Henderson preventing Jackson Holliday. All these guys preventing the other guys. So if you're Baltimore, do you still go with the guys that you have right now that are getting the job done, and you add to that, add Skubal to the mix, but you give up the backups? Or would you rather have the backups, promote those guys to the major league club, and then trade from the position of, okay, we'll give you Westberg or Mountcastle?
Yeah, okay. I mean, they've got two lines of literally hockey teams roll lines. A baseball team could roll lines of infield prospects. I mean, one of the guys in the studio was like, you can't trade Basallo. He's a stud. And Morosi's like, okay, trade Rutschman. Like, what are you going to do at catcher? What kind of two-catcher system are you going to employ where you play both catchers at once behind the plate? In case there's a pass ball and a wild pitch, you got two of them back there? Like, what are you doing?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I'm getting worked up. And I'm really not that. I don't know why I'm getting that worked up. I guess if I were an Orioles fan, I'd be frustrated.
I'd be very frustrated. It was reading some of the comments. Jason LaConfora, who used to be a beat writer here with the Red Wings, who was in the media out in the Baltimore area, writing for newspapers out there, a radio show out there, and a whole bit. He's unhinged right now. He's such an Orioles fan.
Oh, really?
He is eviscerating the Orioles management and ownership. Like he's like, do something. Come on. He's like tweeting every 10 minutes about stuff that goes on in every game that the Orioles have played over the last week, and using that as reason to promote his narrative of you have to trade for guys like Skubal or Flaherty or whomever it is. You got to get Crochet. Got to do it now. Where's the sense of urgency? Oh. He's losing his freaking mind.
He's a Baltimore native, and it's like he's more. I mean, I've seen him more doing NFL lately, but he's fanboying out on Baltimore.
Oh my God, yes.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, if you just look at his Twitter account, it's just funny to see him lose it.
We asked people on our Twitter account at DunganGator971, what do you want to have happen today? Nobody dealt, just Flaherty dealt, just Skubal dealt, or both dealt. And we asked for your replies, and when people respond, we read many of them on the air. This one from Nick. Both dealt if the return for Skubal is historic. This team/farm needs something to jumpstart the offense and non-pitching for next year. I trust Fitter and Hinch with getting us good pitching and making the most of what we have. See Lorenzen and Flaherty as examples. I mean, it's a good point. It's just so tough. It is, admittedly, as I'm sitting here yelling at Baltimore for not trading for Skubal, it's hard to give up a player like Tarek Skubal, a pitcher of that caliber. It's incredibly difficult.
That's why you make it painful for the other team.
Seller's remorse, because it's like the most coveted thing. This is a young, controllable stud of a starter that, man, you having him to build around. And if they keep him, then I'd feel like the sense of urgency to win now goes up. But I did see this on Twitch, and I don't know who posted it. I should have made note of it at the time, because I'm a little bit guilty of this too. It's Stingray 1222 on our Twitch feed. You can watch the show on twitch.tv. He wrote this: MLB prospects to me are like fun coupons. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Like, bringing up, having young players in the set you can't wait to see is fun. And I feel like Baltimore is probably in the fun coupon stage, and they don't want to trade any of their fun coupons in. But you know what else is fun? Winning a World Series.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
I like the term.
And neither the Tigers nor the Orioles have won a World Series since 1984.
Nope. 248-539-9797. Hey, Lions fans aren't talking about this dude at all. Should they be? Because players are. We'll get to that today at 11:20, and we'll keep you up to date. Latest MLB trade deadline. Today's the day. 6 p.m.'s the deadline. 97.1 The Ticket.
Brought to you by Precision Garage Door Service of Southeast Michigan. It's put up or shut up time in baseball. The trade deadline 6 o'clock this evening. Last chance for the Tigers to sell or stand pat with their talent. Jack Flaherty seems to be the most likely to be dealt, holding on to a 2.95 ERA on a one-year deal. Ben Verlander actually said the Astros wanted to trade for him, but the price was too high, so they pivoted to Yusei Kikuchi and dealt several prospects to the Blue Jays instead. As for ace Tarek Skubal, it would take a lot more to acquire him, and as of this morning, John Morosi is sticking to his guns of 50-50 if he's moved. That from MLB Network. Elsewhere, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic asked rival executives if it would happen. Their responses were, they ain't trading him and no chance. Today is day baseball for Detroit as they wrap up a brief 2-game set against Cleveland at 1:10 p.m. Looks like yet another bullpen game for their thin rotation. Tyler Holton going yet again. No Mark Canha in the lineup. There's still 15,000 fans on the wait list for Lions season tickets, according to team president Rod Wood. He expects another year of standing room only for games at Ford Field. Detroit had pads on for the second day in a row as they continue to wrap up their stamina for next week's first preseason game. Also, Olympic medal count of the first thing this morning. USA up to 20 total medals, still stuck at 3 gold. American flag bearer Coco Gauff upset and eliminated this morning in singles play, defeated by Donna Vekic 7-6, 6-2. Danielle Collins did advance, as did Taylor Fritz on the men's side. From the Corewell Health Sports Desk, I'm Chris Villar. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket and Odyssey.com.
Would you be happy with a return of one major league ready prospect, a guy that you expect to be in the lineup next year for Flaherty? Would you say that's a good return?
You know, I've been thinking a lot about that. That's why I'm saying the Baltimore deal with Flaherty would make sense to me.
Yep.
And yeah, I would be okay. Like if they were to trade straight up, this is a big prospect, but if they traded straight up Kobe Mayo for Flaherty, I'd be fine with
it. It's basically trading in something that you will have for two. You'd only have for 2 probably meaningless months of baseball for somebody you hope is going to be with you for a decade.
Exactly.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, and it's. I was thinking, like, is this similar? In a way, what the Tigers have with Flaherty is kind of similar to what they had with Verlander. Now, obviously, Verlander had the longer track record of being a stud pitcher, and it's different from that standpoint. And the Tigers tried to get a haul. They tried to maximize the haul and getting a bunch of players. Could the Tigers have gotten a deal done with Houston back in the day if they had simply asked for, we wanted George Springer or we wanted Kyle Tucker? If they wanted one of those, we just want one. Give us one of those guys. Would Houston have done it? But the Tigers ended up getting they tried to get a haul of players, and they end up with 3 players that they haven't really. 2 guys didn't pan out. One guy's still on the team, but is he's a platoon catcher, if you will. Can they do the same thing with Baltimore, except just get the one player?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking. I don't need to get 4 players for Jack Flaherty.
Just give me one good one.
But I want one solid player, a guy that's ready to step in and play third base or whatever.
Skubal, on the other hand, feels like it'd be minimum 3
Skubal's
major
different.
league ready prospects
Because of the control.
And one has to be elite. And the other, you have to think the other 2 you have to be penning in to start, if not immediately in 2025. And that's just to get a conversation going. I mean, if they're good enough, I would do that, but I don't know not everybody loves your prospects the same way.
When people say that the asking price is too high, when you're hearing stuff like that, and people saying, well, sources say, no way, not going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And it paints the picture like the Tigers are asking too much, right?
Yeah.
But are they?
No.
Or how about this way? Is Baltimore refusing too much? Because if you're Baltimore, you're in a position where you've got the chance to win. You've got all these tickets. Give some of those away and get the guy.
I think we all agree on this show that if we were doing the show in Baltimore, we'd all be trade for Skubal. we would all be imploring our organization to trade for Skubal.
But media-wise, it seems like people are painting the Tigers out to be like, oh, they're asking for too much.
Yeah.
And yet it feels like I'd put it on the other foot and say, no, Baltimore is refusing to budge. Like, if Baltimore doesn't want – if this all hinges on Jackson Holiday, the number one prospect in baseball, middle infield, shortstop, second baseman, blocked it short because Gunnar Henderson's there in Baltimore. If it all hinges on him and Baltimore doesn't want to give him up, that's on Baltimore. That's not on the Tigers for demanding him the trade.
No, the Tigers should have
that. Makes sense for the Tigers to demand for him in the trade.
In the meantime, I have two paranoias. One is that the Flaherty injury is hurting the market. We have talked about it. He has had healthy starts, but that might be the biggest holdup in any deal, is that teams are concerned about the injury. The other is, again, as it pertains to Flaherty, my other paranoia, and this one isn't quite, I'm not as worried about this, but I think it's possible that Harris is asking too much for Jack Flaherty. It's a needle to thread. Ask for the world, but don't ask for the world plus, your AA second baseman. We want as much as we can possibly squeeze out of this, and we want our guy to ask for it. But if he overprices himself out of the market, and we get to 601 tonight, and Jack Flaherty's still a Tiger, I will be like, damn it, Harris, another trade deadline fail. Even though last year it was the player that changed his mind. There was no backup plan. I mean, it still didn't reflect great on Scott Harris. It wasn't like he didn't know about the trade, the no trade clause with Eduardo Rodriguez. He had approval to make that deal, but he had no other deal on the back burner in case this one fell through. And I just don't see. I think if he doesn't trade him, he's going to have to say we're committed to signing him long term.
I don't know about. I mean, the first thing you said was your paranoia says this. Okay, so I'm understanding that's the part in the back of your mind is always going to be there. Like, what? And yet, I think in the fore, I'm not going to speak for your mind. I'll speak for mine.
Go for it.
In the forefront for me, this is just negotiation. This is what you do. And the market, there are too many teams that are in the market for that pitcher to make me think that a deal isn't going to get done. I'd be surprised if a deal didn't get done for Flaherty, given that he is really good. I get, okay, is the injury concern? Is that a legit concern? Sure, it's a concern, but he's proven through 3 starts after the second injection that he's been really good and that like business as usual the way he was at the beginning of the season. So it should alleviate those concerns, and it's a run that another team knows that they're getting. It's a rental player, but there's a price to pay, and it's going to be steep rent. But when you've got big teams like the Dodgers and the Orioles and the Yankees and the Brewers and all these other teams, 7-8 teams that are involved that are looking for pitching, something's going to get done.
I hope you're right.
If one of these other pitchers goes to one of those teams, it only reduces the market by one of those teams.
When I saw Montas get traded last night and Kikuchi get traded last night and nothing come from the Tigers, I'm like, uh-oh. But I'm like, no, it's fine.
There you go.
It's fine.
Back up. Still interested?
But uh-oh.
It's weird because I think they have Skubal and Flaherty, and we all agree, I think, like, Flaherty should be traded. Skubal, it's very debatable, right? Depends on the package in return. But I want the Tigers and Scott Harris specifically to operate from a position of power. Negotiations are difficult, man, and this is where Scott Harris has got to earn his money. If you operate from a position of power, I don't think you're calling teams, they're calling you. Now, Flaherty's definitely more movable, of course, and I'm hoping all these teams are calling the Tigers going, hey, what do you want for Flaherty? Well, this is what we want. The Skubal thing is, I'm not demanding. Yeah, I say no to anything. The Orioles don't control that conversation. I'm just, hey, I've got Skubal. This is what I want. Come back to me when you're willing to give me what I want, or I hold on to Skubal. Flaherty's a different situation because we all think this guy needs to be moved, right?
Yeah.
248-539-9797. Ronnie in Waterford, you're next. What's up, Ronnie?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, thank you.
I think we're stressing out today. I kind of was on board with, man, you can't trade Skubal. That's what we need, but you know what? I just recently broke down his career, and you know what? He's been an elite pitcher for 15 games. Look at his career. He was a losing pitcher in 2020, 2021, 2022.
What do you think he's going to be next?
I would Baltimore. I mean,
no. What do you think
Skubal?
Skubal? What do you think Skubal's going to be? Is Skubal going to go back to being a losing pitcher? Or do you think that he's turned a corner?
No, he's evolved. I mean, he's at that stage where he's become the elite pitcher, but who knows? I mean, with a different team, but I still put him in elite category. I just, I'm on board with going ahead and trading him now, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, look,
a long way to get there.
I think we all say this about school. I think everybody says this about school. You don't trade him unless you get that offer.
I don't think everybody says it.
I don't think there are many people out there. Well, the only other dissension would be that you don't trade them.
Yeah,
okay.
I think there are people that don't even take the calls. We've gotten that, over the
and
last
that's
few
fine.
weeks.
But if you're going to trade them, the only reason you trade them is because they make a Godfather offer. I don't think anybody has called in and said just trade them.
No,
trade
no,
them for
God, no. There's basically two groups of people: those that will take the calls and those that won't. Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket.
So I want to tell you about a great experience that I had recently with a local company. I needed new garage doors, and I've been dealing with Precision Garage Door for years. And they told me a while back, well, at some point you're going to have to get new garage doors. Well, that point came about 6 months ago. I needed new garage doors. You got it. I called Precision Garage Door. Weekends, they're available at no extra charge, and they offer the industry's leading warranty. This is awesome. Plus, all calls are answered 24/7. And if you mention 97.1 The Ticket, they're going to waive your service fee. I love Precision. They were amazing. They came right out. We scheduled the appointment at my convenience, and we took a look at what was there. They gave me the options. I picked out the doors, and they had them installed in no time. They were true professionals, and right now at a time when finding great service is really tough, you can truly appreciate that. Give Precision Garage Door a call today at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR or visit precisiondoormi.com and schedule that appointment.
Hey, just a reminder, today at 12:26, we're giving away a 4-pack of tickets to an exclusive 97 ticket event, a Michigan football preview show down at Music Town inside Hockey Town. Wednesday, August 7th. And it'll be myself, John Jansen, Stoney Wojo. We'll preview the upcoming Michigan football season. Plus, we'll have player appearances, giveaways, food and drink, and much more. Today at 12:26, we'll have a Carson Anderson quiz question. And we'll throw an easy question if you're listening to the show. I don't even know if it's something we've said already or something we will say, but if you're paying attention, you'll get it right. And the first one with the correct answer at 12:26 gets a 4-pack of tickets to that event. The only way to get in is to win those tickets on 97.1 A Ticket. It's presented by Pepsi. Okay, I mentioned a while ago, nobody's talking about this Lion. Birchie Kid tweeted out 2 players today that were talking about this Lion. Maybe we should be talking about this Lion. Do you care to venture a guess as to who it might be?
Kirby Joseph.
Okay. Kang, do you care to venture a guess as to who it might be?
No one's talking about this Lion. Matthew Betts.
Okay. The answer is Marcus Davenport. Graham Glasgow. He just came back a few days ago. I could tell you he's out there headbutting the S out of us. Aleem McNeil. Davenport is just a killer. He'll teach us some things, but he's more talking about running through people's faces. No, I think this is one of the examples of a signing that the people in the organization think is big and the fans don't. And his career, do you remember him out of UTSA? I remember you and I talking about him a lot prior to the draft. He goes to New Orleans and he's on a career arc that looks very promising after his first 3-4 years. Then he basically has played 19 games the last 2 seasons and has 2.5 sacks. And the Lions have a relationship with the guys that were in New Orleans. Marcus Davenport is getting little discussion, little fanfare. And yet, I think he's the probable starter at the edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. And I'm going to put him in that category that we shouldn't be surprised if he's good. We shouldn't be surprised if he's good.
Interesting.
I
feel like you've completely changed your tune on this.
Well, you know what it is? It's that when they get out there and they start practicing and players start commenting on him, I'm like, you know what? There's a chance here. And it's not faith in Marcus Davenport. It's faith in Brad Holmes.
Kang, do you think Doug is being swayed
Absolutely.
by training camp and whispers of what players are saying?
Yep. Keep going.
Is this the same thing, hitting the pads, just he's been headbutting the S out of us? Is that the soundbite that we need? That signifies Doug is he's having his overreaction in training camp already?
I say this because I agree with you, Gator. When the signing was made, Doug was like, why?
Why?
You was a throwaway. Why? He does nothing for me, I think were his words. Now.
Potentially extraordinarily shrewd.
Yep.
Now.
100%. 100%.
And what's changed?
Because he's headbutting the ass out of the offensive lineman.
He's running through people's faces.
Yeah.
He's running through your face.
In the face.
Do you want to go with Anzarike too? Because Graham Glasgow says he's flashing. He's shown flashes.
No, because that guy's.
Yeah, he's not flashing. He's showing flashes. Right. Flashing is different. That can get you in trouble.
Yes, it's certainly possible, if not the likely reason. But
do we have music that's like the Tigers' spring training? We need to come up with music.
Keep my eye out for Marcus Davenport.
Time for Doug Karsh's Lions training camp overreactions.
Scoff all you will. Don't be surprised when that guy starts making plays.
You should be the most surprised because you hated the signing.
I didn't hate it. I just was like,
well, this is nothing. This isn't even an improvement.
Yeah. My issue with Doug is, and you just read it, the last 2 years, the guy's done nothing. Like, it's a 1-year deal, so it's worth a shot. Of course, they see that the ability is there if he can stay healthy. I was reading, what the Vikings fans were saying about him last year, like good riddance, steal somebody else's money. He didn't, do well over there. It was just 1 year. Yep. We'll see how this goes. He's probably going to start the year opposite Aiden Hutchinson. If he can stay healthy and regain that, he's still young. He's 27 years old. If he can regain what he had when he was in New Orleans at one point. That's a shrewd signing.
It's just it's just that, I don't care what the Vikings. Look at the status, look where the Vikings are and look where the Lions are. I'll take the Lions as more credible right now than the Vikings. So,
well, maybe they sucked because they had him on their team. I don't know.
That wasn't the only reason.
I know.
They had no quarterback. 248-539-9797. Let's get back to your open line calls. We go to Nate in White Lake. Hi, Nate.
Hey, I was just calling because I'm just confused because the Orioles have what the Tigers need and the Tigers have what the Orioles need. So why such a conundrum that this trade happens would be so outrageous is confusing to me because you got Gunnar Henderson, who's an all-star shortstop, and Jackson Holliday, who they mentioned moving to second base, is now blocked by Jordan Westberg, who is also an all-star. And the Orioles made a move signed a 1-year rental deal for Corbin Burns, which to me signifies an all-in move. So if you got all these young guys blocked and you're making all-in moves, why would trading these younger guys be such an egregious move for Scooball to try and win a World Series?
And welcome to sports radio in the Inner Harbor. Because that's exactly what the fans have to be saying. You've done these things. You've got all this depth and the depth comes in the form of players that haven't even really scratched the surface of their major league career, and they're blocked by all-stars. Why wouldn't you trade for the best pitcher on the market and one of the top 5 pitchers in all of baseball? Of course you would, and you should. But in order for the Tigers to make that trade, Baltimore has to be able and be willing to part with their assets.
No, I agree with that, and I understand why the Tigers wouldn't do it. I think that we're really in a win-win situation. I mean, either we get what we want out of these top prospects, or we keep probable Cy Young winner.
Yeah,
it's a match made in trade deadline heaven.
It really is.
The perfect match of two teams that are in two different places.
The only way Scott Harris could really blow it is if he trades for the lesser value, what Scooball isn't worth, is really how it could all go wrong.
I can't see that. I can't see when the trade is done, if a trade gets done, that at the far side of it, the reporting is, wow, the Tigers really got rooked here. Like, what was Harris thinking? I can't see that scenario. I can see it for Flaherty. Because you know what happened? That Kikuchi trade took place last night, and he's not the pitcher that Flaherty is, and they seem to get a pretty decent return. And I think you'd hate it if it's not better than that.
So, we talk about what we're doing here, and here's what's happening in Baltimore. From one of the, they have a couple of sports radio stations in there. This is from the one that is not the flagships. This is 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. They just tweeted this out 7 minutes ago. They got a poll. The question is, will Mike Elias crap the bed at the trade deadline for the Orioles again? Can he execute impactful buy-side in-season trades for more than just rentals? Is this a redux of last year, slightly better, or worse given the raised expectations for 2024? And then I told you Jason Lanconfor is unhinged. So he replies to that and says, big day in Birdland and time is running out. Can the GM meet the moment? And they had that poll. This will be worse. Same as 23. Slightly better or a home run.
Well, I like that there's pressure on them to make a
pressure.
move.
The caller's right, though. This is like the perfect scenario for both teams. They're like, hey, you have a bunch of young prospects ready to play that you can't play. We have a guy who's going to win the Cy Young possibly under you, 2 more years of control after this year, and you're going for it. What's the problem?
This isn't like you scratch my back and then I'm going to take a scythe and a hammer to yours.
Yeah, I know, right?
This is literally you scratch mine, I'll scratch yours. Let's go. Be gentle about this. Come on.
248-539-9797.
How about I give you some of my peanut butter for some of your jelly? Come on, Baltimore.
We both have bread.
I know, right?
I have 2 servings of peanut butter. You have 2 servings of jelly.
I mean,
there's
only some way we could both eat a same meal and be satisfied.
Both get what we want here. If only.
But there's no milk. Hello, New York. 3-team trade.
You do bring up New York, and I want to talk about New York, and we will get to that today at 11:32 here on 97.1 The Ticket.